First of all, definitely on the supply side, there are several hotspots. Geopolitical tensions in various parts of the world are key concerns for global oil markets. Obviously, the key ones that everybody's focusing today on is Venezuela and the supplies dropping in Venezuela, exports to the US, as you have all seen 2 weeks ago, came down to almost zero. Venezuelan volumes have really come down. Iran is the other area which the eyes are all on for the upcoming month. I think in early May we will find out whether the US waivers will be renewed or not for several buyers of Iranian crude. Other areas include Libya, where there's now also a lot of geopolitical issues happening, and we don't know how that will affect supplies out of Libya. Nigeria as well. Algeria, there's been a change of government. Things seem to be stable in Algeria, and we hope they remain so. Obviously, the OPEC cuts and the OPEC Plus cuts continue to have an important influence in managing the market and bringing stability to the market. Now, this is for the supply. For the demand side, there's a lot of talk about the slowing global economic growth. And we believe that although there is somewhat of a slowdown, it is not that significant to cause a panic, where some people are extending this into talks about a recession. We don't believe this is the case. We believe there is still very strong, solid economic data coming out of the US, out of China, out of places like India and the Middle East, Latin America. Brazil is doing very good. And therefore, we believe that the economy is still in good shape. IMF is projecting 3.5% growth, GDP growth for this year, which is still within norms, historical norms, and we believe this is good for oil demand growth. Our projections for this year is that oil demand will grow compared to last year by 1.2 million barrels per day. Well, first of all, the compliance in the previous deal, which is 2017 and 18, was historical compliance. There was so much doubt about whether this group would stick through beyond 1 or 2 months or 3 months at the most, based on historical experiences, and I think we proved everybody wrong. OPEC and the group from non-OPEC, the 10 countries from non-OPEC, stood together. They stood their ground for 2 years and continue to go together into 2019. Historical levels of 117% on average were achieved in 2017 and 18. For the beginning of the new agreement, which came into effect as of January 1st, the initial month of January, compliance was around 85% and almost 90% for February. And we're seeing very good early indications for the compliance levels in March. Yes, obviously the market needs to see a metric whereby it can measure the success of the supply adjustments. And we believe that we have to be very transparent with the market, and therefore the OECD commercial inventories is the assessment metric that we use, and we publish data. And actually, it's the industry itself that monitors where the IEA publishes these data in various parts around the world, OECD countries. We also have non-OECD data, but that's not published. The metric that is used is the OECD 5-year average, and we assess where we were. In the beginning, just to put things into contrast, in the beginning of the OPEC Plus agreement back in January 2017, there was a stock overhang versus the 5-year average of nearly 340 million barrels. And in February, the latest data that's published is 25 million. So you can see that there's a significant reduction due to the supply adjustments and the increase in global oil demand.
Well, the first thing which is very important is cost saving. Simply, if you're talking about regions, most of countries in the regions are oil exporters. They can export their oil to the market in a transparent market, and instead they can import LNG with discounts versus oil. For instance, today, if you consider some 15-20% discounts for LNG, would it still make sense to bring LNG, which would be cheaper than crude oil? The other factor is LNG is cleaner fuel for power generation, for instance, and it's in terms of pollution that would come from power generation. LNG would be one of the best options to meet the growing demand for energy in the region. I think the most important challenge is domestic prices in the region. Most of countries, they have subsidized regulated prices, which which would be substantially lower than current market price. And that might be a big challenge. Most of industries are based on low gas prices. First, if you look at actually in Bahrain, industrial sector is still paying around $3.20 per million BTU for natural gas. If they want to buy LNG at international prices, if LNG prices go up to $6-7 per million BTU, it could be extremely expensive gas for those industries. If we see actually governments try to remove subsidies over a long term and it gets closer to market price, we will see more opportunities for the countries to focus on LNG imports. MPGC actually was a pretty good conference, focusing on the Middle East, focusing on the oil side, focusing on LNG. There's been lots of discussions, and the conference is focusing on trading, oil trading and LNG trading, and would provide actually good opportunities for market players to get together and discuss about different topics and priorities in the market.
There's a huge potential of LNG trading in this region because the supply from this region is plenty in terms of the overall export from the world. So there's a huge potential in terms of supply as well as in terms of demand. So thereby the potential for LNG trading also comes in. Yes, the market certainly perceives the importance of LNG, and we have seen a lot of infrastructure development in terms of supply, the announcement of additional gas production, LNG production from Qatar and from Abu Dhabi and other regions. So yes, the importance of LNG, everybody is certainly taking very quite nicely, and they will be working towards that. LNG fuel is certainly the cleanest fuel in terms of the quality and the environment when it comes to other fuels, comparing with the fuel oil or any other fuel. So that environmentally the LNG certainly has the quite good advantage. Other than that, in terms of price also, sometimes depending upon which origin you take, how much you take and where you take, sometimes the cost wise also it becomes quite reasonably effective. I see the infrastructure development in terms of the physical trading in the region has to be taken care. That might be a challenge for now. When I say infrastructure, that means the infrastructure to trade the LNG. That includes the storage tanks, the receiving ports and trading ports in this region. So that has to be developed. If that challenge is overcome, I think that will grow the LNG trading industry in this region. Yeah, this conference, MPGC, is certainly a very nice platform for everybody in the LNG and gas industry to come in at the same place and discuss their views as well as share their ideas, which will certainly help the region as well as the LNG trade industry as a whole to grow in near future.